What did you think about the openings?
I guess the thing that stuck out to me most in the openings is how calm Georgia Kappelman is. She is impressively calm and professional at all times, and that was true throughout the entire trial, even when things got heated, kind of with the other lawyers. But it seemed to me that Ms. Kawas in particular genuinely believes in her client's innocence. Yeah. You can kind of tell when someone's, because we got the impression from Mr. and this wasn't just me, this was other jurors as well. We kind of got the impression from Mr. Zangane that he was just trying to do the best he can for his client. But
there was a lot of evidence against Garcia.
There was a lot of evidence against Mr. Garcia. But for Ms. Kawas and Mr. DeCoste, they were clearly very emotionally invested in Ms. McBenoit, and they seemed to genuinely believe that she didn't have anything to do with this.
So a good impression from the defense counsel, at least for Ms. McBenoit, and I'm hoping I'm not pronouncing that wrong.
I think it's McBenoit.
McBenoit, okay,
Yeah.
Like that, okay. I misspeak. I mispronounce things all the time because my background is I'm American. I was born in the United States, but I grew up in Argentina and Brazil, so I got an accent in every language I speak, and I mispronounce everything all the time.
Yeah.
It doesn't affect my jury work though, my trials. So we have two lawyers. I mean, we have two teams of lawyers that were from South Florida, right? And Mr. Zangane has a particular style. I mean, he's talking about like the wifey, like he has these colloquial terms that he uses all the time. How did that fall? You know, how was that perceived by the jurors? Did that affect anything?
I mean, I want to say probably for my age group, that was fine for us. It may not have been received as well with some of the older jurors.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's for people from the younger generations, maybe like 40 and under, there's a distinction between wifey versus girlfriend, versus baby mama, and so I do think that it was helpful for Zangane to use those kind of colloquialisms. There were a number of younger jurors, so it was fine. I don't know how helpful it was with some of the older ones, but
what about the fact that he kept bringing up the fact that Charlie Adelson is good looking? He seemed to be bringing that up all the time.
He was trying to paint a picture, and he did it very successfully. He was trying to paint a picture of Charlie Adelson as a good-looking rich kid who never had to work for anything.
Right.
And that was the impression that I got.
Yeah.
And then as far as we discussed, that was the impression that everyone had, was that he was, a good-looking rich kid who had everything handed to him, and he liked to play, and he liked to pretend that he was, from the other side of the tracks or whatever, and he was a playboy. Right. Mr. Zangane, and to an extent, DeCoste gave a very unflattering picture of Charlie Adelson.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. All right. So openings. I mean, if you were to grade the attorneys in their opening, let's say A, B, C, regular school grades, would you say for Georgia, what would you give?
The content of her opening didn't stick out as much to me. Maybe like a B, honestly. Yeah. It's not anything that she did wrong. She's not a very relatable person. Yeah. And, it's not her job to be relatable, but
she's definitely very steady.
she's very steady, and ultimately over the course of the trial, she's a very impressive person.
Absolutely.
But she's not very relatable in her openings. But she's a prosecutor, The defense attorneys, Ms. Kawas was excellent. Yeah. Mr. Zangane, it felt like he was trying really hard, which is good. He's a defense attorney, he should be trying hard. Sure. But he was not as confident as Ms. Kawas was.
I guess he didn't have a lot to work with. Exactly. And that does affect a lot. But I guess he got a good start with the 7,
Yes.
I guess he was memorable and impressive. I mean, my impression from both defense lawyers is they really did a good job with whatever they got. And I agree with you about Kawas. I gave her an A. Yeah. She was really, really strong. really strong.
She's very impressive. And yes, actually, when Zangane, I'd forgotten about the whole 7 years thing. Yes, that was an impression that stayed with all of the jurors throughout the entire trial.
Yeah, I thought that was very effective to start like that. So, all right, let's see what else I got for you. So we did the openings. There was a lot of evidence. It was how many? It wasn't like almost 2 weeks, right?
It was 2 weeks.
2 weeks trial,
2 weeks.
and it ended. I think it was on the Friday. So basically, it started on
It was
I think a
Thursday.
Tuesday. Well, if you don't count the jury selection, I think it started on a Monday, and then there was a Monday that was missed, right? So they skipped one Monday. We had a
Yes.
first full week.
So we started on a Thursday. It skipped that Monday, and then it went through that 4-day week and ended on the following Thursday. We
That's
started
right,
deliberations on a Thursday.
I was on vacation for 2 weeks in New Hampshire, so I'm
Lucky
not
you.
sure what was Monday, Tuesday, but I was, being on vacation was good because at night I could just listen, put my headphones on and listen on YouTube to the replay of most of the case.
Yeah.
And that's how I got my summaries done and everything. So, I guess I'll ask a few questions about some of the evidence that came in. I mean, I'm sure that a lot of people would like to know what you feel about the credibility of Wendy Adelson, and she's laughing.
Wendy Adelson did not do herself any favors with that testimony at all.
Yeah.
Most of the things that she said were quickly shown to be not true, either by things that she had said in the past or by, the cell phone locations and the evidence, or by her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
There were things that she just blatantly lied about that were just kind of weird things to lie about, like not knowing the difference between a Ferrari and a Porsche.
Right.
Or having been able to see the crime scene tape from Centerville Road.
Right.
Everyone who's familiar with that area of Tallahassee,
Yes.
you wouldn't be able to see that. And so then, Kappelman, of course, brought in the police officer who was sitting there, and he confirmed that there was no way that you would have been able to see it. And then, of course, it was shown that she had driven down to the crime scene and driven away.
Yes, that she made like a sort of a U-turn or
Yes.
I don't know what it's called.
She had made a 3-point turn.
3-point turn, yes.
Yeah, going down Moscop Drive.
Yes. She definitely got beaten up after her testimony,
Mm-hmm.
and I also felt that what about her demeanor? I mean, obviously we're talking about the murder of the father of her kids. Did her demeanor and how did that impress you?
She was suspiciously calm. She had obviously been practicing. She's an attorney,
Yes.
and she knows what she's doing. And she laughed in Georgia Kappelman's face
Yes.
about the possibility of being arrested.
She scoffed at it. Yeah. She was like, and then she's like, "Well, are you a suspect? I don't know."
She seems very confident.
Yes.
I don't know if she actually is. She came off that way, but it did not leave the jury with an impression that she was innocent at all.
Right. What about the fact that none of the Adelsons were charged? Did that come up?
Yes, that bothered all of us throughout the whole thing. It was very frustrating. It was very frustrating as a juror because, we felt like the wrong people. A lot of us felt like the wrong people were on trial. I can't speak for everyone on the jury, but that was...
As far as Katie, you mean? As far as that she should not have been on trial?
Not that the two of them shouldn't have been on trial ultimately. It was very frustrating for us that a lot of the evidence that Georgia Kappelman was presenting was against the Adelsons.
Right.
The Adelsons are currently walking free.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, these two people haven't seen their kids in 3 years.
Right. And we're now 5 years past the murder,
Mm-hmm.
and they're raising the kids of the guy that got murdered. And from the evidence that came in, it was all about letting their daughter, sister, move to South Florida, and she did it the next day. But,
Yes.
a few days later. So I'm sure that bothered everybody.
Yeah. The Adelsons don't look good.
Right
now.
I agree with you. Lacasse was an impressive witness, Professor Lacasse.
Yes, yeah, he was. And after the trial, I went back and watched the interviews that he. So I guess just a couple days ago, I watched like all the interviews he did for the police on the 2020 special, and they brought him in a few different times, and he just talked about everything.
He was talking about the Adelsons quite a lot.
He really was, yeah. Professor Lacoste, he was a good witness for Kappelman to bring forward, because Wendy Adelson told him a lot of things, and I guess assumed that he would never speak of them again.
So did you guys believe him, for example, like when what did you think about this? Was it a coincidence or not? The fact that on the day that this Garcia does his first trip to supposedly murder Professor Markel on June 4th, that she's completely ill and not feeling well, and then she's canceling the trip where they're going to go in a few weeks to California to meet Professor Lacoste's parents, as if she knows that she's not going to be with him anymore. Was that evidence even discussed, or you guys just forgot about that?
It wasn't that we forgot about it. It was just kind of no one had any impression that Wendy Adelson was innocent, so it wasn't even like a point of discussion for us.
It was like so obvious that.
At the beginning of deliberations, I don't remember who said it, but someone said, so does anyone think that the Adelsons are innocent? And we were like, no.
Well, good question. I mean, because obviously, to be fair to the Adelsons, they did not have a lawyer there, right? So some of the evidence in the trial against them that the state used against Garcia and Magbanua probably would not even come in against them.
Right.
So they had nobody to argue for them. Now, during the deliberations, I understand that the jurors were feeling, okay, well, obviously this was ordered by the Adelsons. Somebody. Did you guys have an impression that it was Charlie for sure, or it was all of them, or it was Wendy and Charlie? Or could you tell from the evidence that was introduced at trial who did it? Who ordered it?
Things that seem to be, and we actually we took a long time to deliberate.
Sure.
We went through the cell phone records, and we tried to find, and we found Wendy Adelson's cell phone records from that day, and she didn't have contact with anyone, and so our impression.
You're talking about Wendy?
Yeah, Wendy.
Wendy on which day?
On the day of the murder.
Okay.
So we were trying to figure out how Wendy would have known that Professor Markel had been shot, but it seemed obvious from all of the evidence, although we weren't able to verify with cell phone records, that she knew something was going to happen, and she seemed to know when it was going to happen.
Now I remember that you guys asked for some stuff that you wanted to look at. I think it was a chart of something on the cell phone records.
Yeah.
Was it about that? Because I do remember. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that there was some evidence that there were several phone calls that same morning that involved Charlie and Wendy, that involved other people in the Adelson family talking to Wendy that morning.
Yeah, there was no phone call from Wendy, and the evidence that were the demonstratives that we asked for that wasn't what we were asking for. But there was no phone call from anyone to Wendy after the murder.
Oh, after the murder, like to let her know that it happened.
So we were looking for between the 10:30 a.m. and 1 p.m. time frame, and we couldn't find anything. I
see. So obviously, we know that the murder happened around 11, like at 10:50 or so. We know that Garcia, per the evidence, Garcia waited about an hour, and then he called supposedly Katie Magbanua and said, it's done, right? And you guys were thinking, okay, well, I guess somebody would have let Wendy know, so that she, if she's driving there, why would she drive if it hadn't happened yet? She doesn't want to be there. So I guess it makes sense. You guys are, well, did somebody let her know? Right? And so, of course, it could be that.
There's a lot of holes in the story, and this is why our deliberations took so long, and it's why it ultimately ended in a mistrial for Ms. McDonald, because of the holes.
I was going to ask you about exactly that. What holes were there in Magbanua's case, but we'll get to that later.
Okay.